Welcome back, everyone. I'm Robin from This Blog's Neat, and I have been sitting here for a couple hours just staring at my microscope, hoping that I'll be able to catch a time lapse of a fission yeast going through binary fission. I don't know if it's going to happen. I was sitting here for about an hour taking a time lapse video, and bubbles on the slide kept popping and combining, and it was shooting the cells, all of the yeast cells all around the slide. So I was having a really hard time keeping track of this one yeast cell, and yeah, I'm taking a stab at it again. So while I'm sitting right here, I figured I'd taste some rums. And of course, me staring at my microscope and fission yeast doesn't have anything to do with what I'm tasting today. It's just what I'm doing today. But I will be tasting through 3 different Grand Arome rums. Well, I guess one is an Aroma Grande rum, which is essentially a Grand Arome rum made in a Spanish-speaking country instead of a French-speaking country. So I'm tasting 3 Great Aroma rums because I'm pretty sure that's what those translate to. Now, shout out to Phil, who sent me these samples. He sent me a variety of rum samples. And shout out to Scott as well, who sent me a variety of other samples. So if you're one of my Patreons, you know the samples that I recently got in the mail today. I'm very excited to taste all of them. And I was going to do them as individual videos, but that would be a whole lot of videos, which would be like good for me because I could queue up some videos on YouTube and just keep posting them. But I figured I would group together the Grand Arome rums because I can kind of talk about them as a kind of style, a group of rums. So I'm doing 3 today. And speaking of my Patreons, I do want to give a huge shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for helping to support the channel. And if you, the viewer, would also like to support the channel, I'd be super grateful if you joined us over on Patreon. If not, make sure to subscribe, and especially if you enjoy this video, like, comment, share it with your friends, and watch more of my videos. So as I'm sure you know, because you clicked on the thumbnail, and I'm sure future Robin has included these 3 rums on the thumbnail of this YouTube video, I am tasting a Grand Arome rum from Reunion Island, which I have done once before. Check out this video right here. I taste the Holmes Key Grand Arome rum from Reunion Island. I did make a mistake in that video. I'm jumping ahead. Okay, hold on. I'm also going to taste a rum from the French West Indies. I'm assuming it's Martinique. And I'm going to taste one from the Dominican Republic, an Aroma Grande from the Dominican Republic. So I listed those backwards. I'm actually going to start with the Aroma Grande from the Dominican Republic because I am assuming that it's going to be lighter in flavor. I did give these a little bit of a sniff as I was pouring them out, and I do think that there's a little bit relative to the ones that I have right here. I think there's a little bit less going on the nose for the Dominican rum. So I'm going to start with that as kind of like a warm up, and then I'll move my way up. Now, let me address the mistake I made in my previous Grand Arome and my only other Grand Arome video, where I taste the Holmes Key bottling of the Reunion Island Grand Arome rum, which is from Savanna Distillery. In that video, I claimed that they use dunder in the fermentation. They do not use dunder in the fermentation. This surprises me because there is so much weirdness on the nose, which doesn't always indicate dunder, right? I think we hear dunder and we think, oh my gosh, this is going to be so crazy weird. It has more to do with the fermentation itself, so the microbes that are present. And so in this case, the Grand Arome rum that's produced by Savanna Distillery does not use any dunder in the fermentation. They don't have ridiculously long fermentation times. I think it's about 10 days for their fermentation. And it's the specific yeast strains that they're using in their fermentations that develop these really crazy, funky flavors during fermentation. And that's just a whole lot of R&D, I'm assuming, to pick those right microbes that you want to add in. Is it just yeast? Are they also inoculating with some bacteria? I don't know. I tried to find out and no one would tell me. And I'm sure it's a huge secret. But I do know that depending on which rum they're making, they will use different yeast strains to get a different flavor profile, which I think is very cool and something that we should talk more about in the spirits industry, is the fermentation side of things, the actual like microbes that are making all of these crazy flavors, or not making any crazy flavors, or just producing a clean rum. I think we should dive into that a little bit more. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that at Savanna Distillery, they do not use dunder to make their Grand Arome. Before I dive into these rums, I want to briefly kind of talk about the general idea of what a Grand Arome rum is. And this is depending on where you are making the Grand Arome rum, is essentially like a really flavorful rum. It's kind of the equivalent to a high-ester rum from Jamaica, only they're not solely focused on the ester concentration. It's more so the volatile components that they are focused on. And the way that they do this typically is using molasses and column distillation. Depending on the distillery, they might alter those ingredients. For example, rums from Martinique must use vinasse in the fermentation, which is just stillage. That's dunder, essentially. So yeah, in summary, Grand Arome rums are just rums that have great aromas. They have a lot of aromas, and usually that's around the ballpark of like 800-ish grams of volatile components per hectoliter of pure alcohol. And with that, we'll start with the rum from the Dominican Republic. So what I have is a sample of SBS Origin, which is single barrel selection origin. This is bottled by a Danish company. I think it's called 1423 World Class Spirits. And they have an entire brand that is this SBS Origin, where they bottle rums from various origins. So there's not a whole bunch of information about how this rum was made. So I had to do some digging on the internet, and it is believed, some claim that it does come from this specific distillery, but it's from the Alcoholes Finos Dominicanos distillery. I'm going to call it the AFD distillery. Now, normally they use cane juice, fresh cane juice for their fermentations. They also are using multi-column stills where they are getting a whole bunch of refinement. They're stripping away a lot of the flavor and getting a very pure spirit that's coming off the still. And I read that they get somewhere around 95% ABV off the still, and that is vodka, essentially, right? You're stripping out a lot of those flavors. Vodka has to come off the still at least 95% ABV, by the way. But this is not the case for this rum. Are they still using a column still? Yes, I do believe so. What ABV are they collecting it at? I'm not sure. Is it molasses? Is it cane juice? Someone on the internet said it's cane juice. Most Grand Arome styles are molasses. How long is it fermented? Is it wild fermented? Are they using specific yeast strains? Are they using dunder? If you have this information, please let me know. But I do know this bottle is supposed to have around 500 grams of esters per hectoliter of pure alcohol. So a pretty high ester rum. And with that, let's dive into the SBS Origin Dominican Republic Aroma Grande rum, sitting at 57% ABV. The first thing I'm getting is like hairspray, but there's some fruits in here too, like berries. But the hairspray, like, There is a floral component to it, but it's just kind of like a vague floral hairspray note, if that makes sense. I am getting some orange zest as well. And I feel like there's some nail polish, not remover, but just the nail polish itself, which I think has like a little bit of a distinction between nail polish and nail polish remover, but yeah. There are like hints of something creamy, almost like a whipped cream, and like a dill thing, like fresh dill. But primarily what I'm getting on the nose is this like hairspray with a little bit of berries. Oh my gosh. The hairspray is not the predominant flavor on the palate. This is so much fruitier, and it's a lot of candied fruits. It's like, first of all, the mouthfeel is really nice, but this is like a mixed berry dried fruit thing, powdered sugar on top. There's something very familiar. Okay. The bubble gum that comes in the wheel, I don't remember what it's called because I want to call it fruit by the foot, but that's not what it is. It's the bubble gum that comes in the wheel. Did they do a bubble gum fruit by the foot? And did they do kind of like that is it. Yeah. Wow. Now there are hints of nail polish, also with a little bit of allspice, but yeah, this just berry thing is coming forward really, really predominantly. That's so cool. That's really fun. I'm very pleased that the like nail polish and hairspray wasn't the thing that came through on the palate. Yeah, that's what I still get on the nose, so I'm happy that the palate was a lot fruitier and a lot of fruity candies. That's fun. So we're going to move on to another sample that I have from another SBS Origins bottling. This is the French Antilles Grand Arome at 57%. Now, this is also, it's not disclosed what distillery this comes from as well. However, the internet has speculated it's from Le Galion in Martinique. And as I mentioned before, Martinique does have a GI that protects Grand Arome rums. So Grand Arome rums from Martinique must be, made in Martinique, the whole shebang. But it's made with molasses and water and vinasse, dunder in the fermentation, along with native yeast. And it must be fermented in open vats for at least 7 days. And the wash strength cannot exceed 5.5% ABV. It's also distilled on a column still, usually a Creole column still, and the total concentration of volatile substances must be at least 800 grams per hectoliter of pure alcohol. At least 500 of those must be esters. So yeah, it should be nice and flavorful. It's not going to be as flavorful as, say, a DOK from Hamden that's at 1,600 grams of esters per hectoliter of pure alcohol. But it is going to be pretty flavorful. Is there anything else I need to... Oh, and also Grand Arome rums must be unaged from Martinique. And I think that's it for kind of the regulations according to the Martinique GI. Maybe I said this. This is also at 57% ABV. Wow. Okay. So this does remind me a lot of a moderately high ester rum, a medium ester rum from Jamaica, but mixed with like honey mustard. Like it's got those fruity notes, those tropical fruit notes. They're like overripe, but some are perfectly ripe and some are underripe. There's herbs as well in here. There's also like hints of almost like an earthiness, but it's like a mesquite along with a little bit of mint. Yeah, it's like the hard mint candies, like the standard red and white stripe mint candies. And banana cream pie. Wow, yeah, this good mouthfeel. It is like a funky Jamaican rum with an edge to it. If I was tasting this blind, I would probably be like, oh yeah, this is hails from Jamaica. Yeah, there's the pineapple with some mixed fruits. The pineapple fronds are in there as well. Some nail salon carrying those fruits. And then the earthy thing, the earthy minty thing is more of like a fresh cut off branch of eucalyptus. So like there's like the woodiness to it, but also that kind of like eucalyptol, I think is the compound that's kind of responsible for that typical eucalyptus flavor. But wow, going back to the nose is crazy. Man, I love when rums do this. When you get it on your palate and then you go back for a sniff and it is just like giving you completely different notes. It's so much woodier on the nose now. Like if you were trying to build something, build a piece of furniture with tons and tons of wood glue, and the wood that you chose was like a mesquite wood. The wood glue is a little sweet, and so is the wood. But yeah, I feel like there's also some cumin in here, like ground cumin. Wow. Okay. Very different from the Aroma Grande from the Dominican Republic. Actually, back to the Aroma Grande for a second from the DR. I don't know that I would get any notes that would lead me to believe that this is cane juice. So that's really cool if it is fresh pressed cane juice that they're fermenting, because it doesn't remind me of like a typical cane juice spirit that would be a lot more like grassy, vegetal. Yeah. I'm not getting anything that really would lead me to believe that. Okay, so last but not least is a sample of the Savanna Longtan at 57.5% ABV. Now, this is essentially the same thing that Holmes Key puts out under their Reunion Island Grand Arome rum, but it's for, I believe, just like EU and French exports. Doesn't make it to the US. The only reason it makes it to the US is because of Holmes Key. So as I've mentioned in my video tasting the Holmes Key Reunion Island Grand Arome rum, this is from Savanna Distillery, and they are using molasses, no dunder in the fermentation. They're using long fermentation, about 10 days, and they're fermenting it with very specific yeast strains that they have selected specifically for this mark. I don't think they call them marks, but specifically for the Longtan bottlings. It's also distilled on the Creole column still. And I considered doing a side-by-side tasting with this one and the Holmes Key Grand Arome on a video. I did it like right before this video, and they are very similar. There are definitely some differences, and I'm assuming that's just batch to batch. They're bottled at the same bottle strength and everything, but I'm getting very similar notes, so I figured I wouldn't also throw in the Holmes Key Grand Arome into this mix. Now, the thing that stands out is, to me, this millipede musk. That is the first thing I get every single time I open up that bottle of Holmes Key. That is the first thing I got when I poured the Savanna Longtan into this glass, was that millipede musk thing. And it's a real thing. I'm not the only one who gets this. Shout out to Colin, who knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's that, but it's also got this key lime note. I feel like maybe I'm just in a eucalyptus mode right now, but there's also eucalyptus on this, but it's like rotting, decaying eucalyptus. It sounds terrible in a good way. There's also some fruitiness, and I know a lot of people get strawberry bubblegum. And if I go looking for it, I can see it. But it's more of an industrial strawberry, like powdered strawberry thing, or powdered just like kind of fruity thing. That mesquite is definitely present, like that barbecue dry rub. I also got that in the Holmes Key Grand Arome. This is just a lot of fun. I could just sit here and keep smelling it. Really nice mouthfeel, pretty low heat, and it's just tons of juicy figs with millipedes. I'm really curious what yeast strain is responsible for these crazy flavors. There's so many different yeast strains out there that it is kind of hard to be like, oh, it must be from this species in particular. The environment in which the yeast is also fermenting will impact the off flavors that it produces or the congeners that it produces. So depending on the fermentation conditions, that's also going to impact what those flavors are. And I feel like it's gotta be some thiols that are creating this like muskiness that I'm getting, I would think. So like sulfur containing compounds. Yeah, depending on the microbe, they are able to produce those compounds. A lot of them make thiols, actually. It depends on the conditions they're in, the other microbes that are present. But I keep, in the back of my head, Brett keeps coming up. So Brettanomyces keeps like popping up in the back of my head. It's a spoilage microbe and can be responsible for like mousiness, like mouse cage notes, for barnyardiness. But it also can produce phenols and thiols and all these compounds that maybe are responsible for what I'm tasting. So if you know the yeast species that Savanna uses for their different rums, please let me know. Or if you want to speculate further with me, please let me know. But this is really fun. I'm getting a lot of similar notes to what I was getting in the Holmes Key Grand Arome. So I had to go back for a sip because I went on a microbial tangent. There's also some herbal qualities in here, some pepperiness, like green bell pepperiness, lots of fruits, but that predominant note that I get is this mustiness that is like so cool and interesting. When I have a rum that I kind of want to surprise people with, like, this might be something you have never tried before. This is usually what I'll grab. Well, not the little sample that I have, but the bottle of Holmes Key Reunion Island Grand Arome. I'll usually grab that and just say, like, give this a try. Anyways, these are all really fun and all very, very different, which is cool that they're all part of kind of a similar category, right? They're all Grand Aromes, Aroma Grandes, but they all have very unique flavor profiles. If you've tried any of these, let me know which one you like the most out of them, just based on the flavor profile that I like, right? I love high-ester Jamaican rums. Out of the three of these, I would probably gravitate most towards the French Antilles Grand Arome. But if I'm looking for something really interesting that I can't find anywhere else, I would definitely go for the Savanna. Now, that isn't to say the DR Aroma Grande isn't great. Like, this is really fun. I'm happy that I have all three samples. I don't think these are available in the US, so I think if you want them, you have to get them off of websites that will ship to the US. So keep that in mind. I don't know that these are very easy to get, hence Phil sending me the samples so that I could try them. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe and all the YouTube things. And look out for more tasting videos because I have a whole lot more samples to try.